Do I have to start over?
There you go.
If you wouldn't mind, at least catch.
All right, well, I'm going to start with the hammer.
Yes. Best part.
We now call to order the State Air Pollution Control Board meeting this Thursday, April 17th, 2025 at Richmond. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, you've received an agenda in advance. Is there a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. All right, it's approved. And so we go directly to the star of the show, Ms. Sebastiansky.
Good afternoon, everybody. Okay, my name is Karen Sebastiansky. I work in the Office of Air Data Analysis and Planning, and I'm the regulation writer for the Air Division. And your exempt final regulation for today concerns agricultural use incinerators. And during this past General Assembly, Senate Bill 1495 was passed, and this bill requires the State Air Pollution Control Board to amend 9 VAC 5-80-1105 of the Virginia Administrative Code relating to permit exemptions for poultry or swine incinerators to include bovine incinerators. And to put that rule in context, this is part of Article 6 of Chapter 80, which concerns minor new source review permitting. And Section 1105 is a list of exemptions from that regulation. The bill further states that an emergency exists and the act is enforced from its passage. And in this context, emergency does not mean call 911. It merely means that we should adopt this regulation as expeditiously as possible. And in general, agricultural incinerators for farm animals are needed to prevent the spread of disease and to protect the land and groundwater when other methods, such as rendering or composting, simply isn't practical. Poultry and swine incinerators have been exempt from minor new source review permitting since 2012. You may recall in the early teens, there were several rounds of avian flu that went through the Shenandoah Valley region, and that exemption was added during that time for that reason. Today, we're going to exempt bovine incinerators from minor new source review air quality permitting. This will enable us to meet our state legislative requirements. The adoption process is exempt from the standard regulatory adoption process by Section 2.2-14006A4A of the Administrative Process Act, and this is because this action is necessary to conform to state law. And before I move to my recommendation, are there any questions? Okay. The department's recommendation is that the board adopt the proposal with an effective date consistent with the Administrative Process Act. In adopting this proposal, the board affirms that it will receive, consider, and respond to petitions by any person at any time with respect to reconsideration or revision as provided in Section 2.2-4006B of the Administrative Process Act.
And Ms. Sebastiansky, these would be petitions to challenge the adoption of this proposal, not to challenge any permits issued or not issued.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions for Ms. Sebastiansky? This is probably not a discretionary decision for us, but step forward, which says we're required to adopt this. It seems to me that the staff have done a good job of taking the words of the statute and working them into the regulation with nothing missing and nothing extra. Anybody else have comments or questions? Or a motion? With a motion to adopt the recommendation in the regulation. We have a motion and a second to adopt the recommendation. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. There you have it. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Chairman Guy, you didn't approve the minutes. Jumped one item over on the agenda. So
I was just trying to test and see if you were making. Congratulations. A motion to approve the minutes of the November 21 meeting. A motion and a second. Motion and a second. Would we like to line up for debate? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Thank you. Thank you for the reminder. Mr. Dow.
Afternoon. I'm Mike Dowd. I'm the director of the Air and Renewable Energy Division for DEQ. Virginia Code 10.1-11841B provides that at each regular meeting of the State Air Pollution Control Board, DEQ shall provide an overview and update regarding any controversial permit pending before the department. A controversial permit is defined as, among other things, the permit for a major modification to an existing fossil fuel-fired generating facility with a capacity of 500 megawatts or more. The only controversial permit I have to provide an update on today is one that I've mentioned at the board meetings since November of 2023, that is Dominion's proposed Chesterfield Energy Reliability Center, sometimes referred to as CERC. CERC will be located in eastern Chesterfield County at the site of Dominion's existing Chesterfield Power Station, which has been in operation since 1944. The project will consist of 4 simple cycle combustion turbines of 250 megawatts each. The primary fuel will be natural gas with number 2 fuel oil as a secondary fuel. The project will also be able to use as an alternative fuel a blend of 10% hydrogen with natural gas. For pollution control equipment, Dominion has proposed to install selective catalytic reduction, known as SCR, and dry low-NOx burners to control emissions of oxides of nitrogen and PM2.5. Dominion has also proposed to install an oxidation catalyst to control volatile organic compounds and carbon monoxide. Dominion has proposed controlled emission rates of 2.5 parts per million for oxides of nitrogen, 2 parts per million for carbon monoxide, and 1 part per million for volatile organic compounds. As part of the permit process, DEQ will determine whether these controls and emission rates meet the best available control technology standards required under the Federal Clean Air Act and state law. We are at the point in the permit process where DEQ staff is reviewing the air modeling analysis prepared by Dominion to assess its accuracy. Air modeling for a project like CERC is extremely complex, so it's taking us time to work through it with Dominion. Hopefully, I will have more to report on the CERC project at a future meeting. There is no timeline set for when the draft permit will be ready to go to public comment. And finally, before I sit down on a totally different topic, I just figured to give a very short director's report. I want to mention that on April 4th, EPA finalized what is called a clean data determination for the Northern Virginia ozone non-attainment area. This means that ozone monitoring data has demonstrated that the Northern Virginia, D.C., Maryland area now complies with the Clean Air Act's National Ambient Air Quality Standard for ozone. A clean data determination is a very important step on the road to formal redesignation of the area to attainment, and the rest is really just paperwork from here. My colleagues may say it's a little more than that, but it's really just paperwork as long as we keep the emission monitoring results the way they are. Now, for years, I've told my staff that I wanted Northern Virginia to achieve clean air before I retired, and look, here we are. And I guess I can say that my work here is done in some, and I could do a mic drop, but it really is big news for Northern Virginia. And that's all I have. Any questions on either the clean data determination or on the CERC project, or on anything else? Be glad to entertain them.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I think you downplay it a little bit, but this reflects a tremendous amount of work on your part and part of your staff.
Yeah.
And it's a tremendous outcome for the Commonwealth of Virginia. So thank you, and please extend our thanks.
Yeah. I have a great staff. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Well done.
Thank you. Okay, well, that's you. Oh. Yes. Yes, sir.
Can you, Mr. Guy, can you turn your microphone on? Anyone listening is unable to hear
I
outside.
hadn't turned it off. So
Is it-
somebody
Yeah,
else
it's
must have
going,
turned
it's
it
coming
on.
through over here.
I turned, it was off. I saw the red light. Mr. Dowd, do you know what the generating capacity is of the coal plant at Chesterfield that's being decommissioned or recommissioned?
Well, they haven't burned coal at Chesterfield for several years. It's all, they have some existing natural gas units there, but the coal units did shut down.
So,
I can't remember what the exact megawattage.
so they're replacing some natural gas units with a new natural gas unit.
No, they're actually no, they're building new natural gas units. Their natural gas units are existing, none of them are coming down. In a sense, it's replacing coal. I mean, technically, they're actually netting the reduction from the coal plant from a few years ago against the increase in emissions from the new gas, because it's considered the same facility.
Great. So we're adding capacity and not losing any in this transaction.
We are adding capacity and emissions are going down compared to what the plant was when it was a coal plant.
Thank you. Any other questions on any part of Mr. Dowd's report, his excellent report?
Thank you.
Mr. Dowd, thank you. It is time for our public forum.
We don't have anyone that has registered to speak today.
No one has registered for the public forum. I congratulate the public on their good sense. Before we conclude, well, let me ask first, does anyone else have anything? Before we conclude, I want to thank two of our members, Mr. Hudgens and Mr. Holloway, whose terms appear to expire at the end of June. Now, their terms will continue until their replacements are appointed, but if that's done with alacrity, this will be their last meeting, and you have both been extraordinary contributors, not just to the work of this board, but to the Commonwealth over long and distinguished careers, and we thank you and commend you for that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
If there's nothing else, ladies and gentlemen, we're adjourned.
You did? 1:45, even with the interruption.
The Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia.